right way. As well, make sure, as always, that you follow the hashtag, the many voices of grit. And remember, as I always say, many voices, many faces, all grit. So as you guys see today, the title of the episode is Chilled Grit. And I'm sure you're probably wondering, Vernon, chilled grit, what in the world does this mean? What have you come up with now? Well, you know, on this show, we always innovate, and that's the spirit of DisruptED TV. I've got a treat in store for you today, ladies and gentlemen, with a guest that really needs no introduction. I'm going to introduce him anyway, but this is a person that has a treasure house, a wealth of knowledge to share, and he has graced us with his appearance on the show today. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the person that we have on the episode, Chilled Grit, let me introduce to you none other than Aubrey Patterson. Aubrey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Vernon, thanks for having me here. I'm just really pleased, really stoked to be here. It's quite an honor to be on the Many Voices of Grit. You have such kind, cool, a little bit edgy sometimes, just awesome guests, and to be part of this community is really a thrill. So thanks for having me. I'm a pretty lucky guy. I'm from Canada, northern Canada originally. Just growing up here, the weather alone lends itself to making you pretty gritty. Aside from the weather, we have a lot of characters up here too. So all of that kind of thing gave me a good start as a kid, and witnessing a little bit of grit focused behavior. I became a teacher mostly because my father was like this super positive. Everybody in the community loved him. Basketball coach / teacher, and I never really thought about it. It just happened because it was supposed to, I think. I was really lucky to go through my career as a teacher / coach of everything, and loved all that. And then one day kind of became an academic counselor, and then a principal, and like an assistant superintendent and a superintendent. And I just kept rolling on up the food chain. And I'm not sure why, but I think it was just like really easy to keep trying to do good for people and just do my best. And so it was really a really good gig, and I had a really good run. And I guess it's I just consider myself such a lucky person. I was surrounded by like all these all-stars, which was fantastic. I never ever had to be like the smartest person in the room. There's that expression, right? Like if you find that you're the smartest person in the room, you should get yourself another room. I never had to get myself another room. I was like surrounded by superstars, and we had teachers going all over the world and getting all this amazing training, and everything was just rolling. Like kids are learning, the teachers are learning, the administrators are learning. And yeah, so I had a pretty good gig going, and now I've kind of moved on from that a little bit and doing some other things. So anyway, yeah, that's me. I'm excited to be here, and this is like just a new stage, and yeah, just awesome, man.
Well, let me go ahead and say, Aubrey, and I'm going to say this to all of you in the audience as well. The privilege, honor, and true pleasure is all ours, Aubrey, to have you on the show today. So, ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with the tradition of the Many Voices of Grit, Aubrey is what I would call off camera a heavy hitter. This is a person with a ton of experience, been in a variety of roles. This person speaks, Aubrey, of course, speaks not only from theory, but he speaks from what he has actually lived out as a leader in various roles. So with that being said, Aubrey, we have a few minutes left here in the episode. I appreciate you for sharing that background, because what it really does is it puts a human touch on the episode and it makes it real for people. So I appreciate you sharing about that with the audience. So with that being said, question number one, we'll jump right into it. Is that okay, Aubrey, if we jump into question number one?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's jump into question number one. So Aubrey, talk to us a little bit about times that you've gone through in your life, personal, professional. When you were going through them, maybe you didn't realize that they were grit, but in retrospect, when you look back, when you examine them, you re-examine them, you looked at it, you said to yourself, you know, that was grit and I just didn't realize it. Talk to us a little bit about some of those times uh, that was the case when you lived that out and you experienced that in your life in retrospect.
Oh, sure thing. Thanks, Vernon. Well, mine, I didn't realize at all that with work, I was running everywhere and, trying to solve everything, every problem for everybody, which is fine. It's kind of part of the gig, right? And I was okay with that. And I like to try to help people. Well, anyway, one day I just thought, I had a little bit of convincing from a few people around me and told me I should maybe go to the doctor. This is just a couple of years ago. So I was still superintendent and so I went. I thought I might have like a kidney stone or something. It was like about a week before Christmas. And it ended up that I had, that's when I found out that I had some cancer, which, that's never good. And so anyway, I had that and I had a few surgeries to get rid of it and everything was good. And I was back at work and rolling along and found out another month later that I had another kind. And so then I had another big surgery. And at that point, I kind of thought to myself, I'm running around a whole lot and doing a whole lot of things and I'm bouncing in and out of work and it wasn't so good for my family, wasn't so good for me or the people at work. And so that kind of ended the superintendent gig for me. I just decided I wanted to spend some more time with family and that. So that was a pretty, you want to talk about a grit builder. That was a good one. And everything's totally fine now. And I feel really good about the decisions I made with it. But I guess one of the things is I heard once that the view gets a little bit clearer the closer you get to those pearly gates. Well, anyway, the view was pretty clear for me that I wanted to do some different things. And so that's what I'm doing now. So anyway, I didn't realize that I was sick. The doctor said that I probably had been for a few years. It all kind of came to a head and all worked out well. I'm moving along and life is good now. And I do my very best to stay positive with everything. So anyway, yeah, grit just kind of snuck up on me and then just wham, hit me right in the face.
Now, as you were going through this, Aubrey, and of course, everyone in the audience, we're very, very, very happy to hear that all is well with you now. And from me and all of the viewers out there that are watching this episode, we wish you nothing but the best of health going forward. So I want to go ahead and say that right now. The best of health from me to you, right?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm totally good. Like, honestly, I haven't felt this great in 10 years. So it's all good. Life's good. I'm just grateful. I do my very best all the time to, focus through that windshield and not the rear view mirror and life is good.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to say, and that's one of the reasons why this episode is called Chilled Grit, because you do such a phenomenal job. And I'm sure that you all see that on camera with Aubrey, about Aubrey just being so relaxed. And I want to thank you for living that out and being that, because that comes across very authentically on camera, which is what it is. So we're going to shift into the second question. And you've really kind of talked about this a little bit already and have spoken to a little bit already. So with about 5 to 6 minutes left in the show, this episode, talk to me a little bit about, of course, you have been a leader in various roles. If someone were to come to you and say, hey, Aubrey, you've gone through some things in your life. Those things, I think, by all means, by any definition, constitute grit. How would you help that person look at and go through their own life experiences and really embrace and understand the grit that they've already gone through? How would you help a person that would come to you and say, Aubrey, help me as a leader?
You know, that's a great question, Vernon. I actually think about this all the time because I do tend to get a lot of people come and check in with me or ask me, even people that just met me for the first time. And it's really an honor if somebody, you know, asks you for any kind of advice or help, of course. Um, I, I guess I do my best. I'm not typically very comfortable talking about myself, but I think that if people are asking me for advice, or even if they're just checking in sometimes and say, so how you doing? Like you got a whole bunch of changes happening and that, they might be asking because they have something that they're going through. And so I always do my very best, whether they're asking me directly for advice or whether they're just asking how I'm doing, to make the assumption that um, they might have something going on and need a little bit of help. And so I typically start with, you know, you're not defined by what you have, but by how you handle it. And try to say, you know, we're always empowered and can be empowering. And so I try to keep that kind of language with people and talk about how important it is to have an absence of negativity. Like negativity will eat at you, negativity will suck the room dry. Negativity is just such an awful caustic thing. And so I really try to really support people in keeping focused upon you can do something when something bad happens. You always have choices, and so that's kind of a big thing. I find that a lot of people who are going through things, it's not that they're feeling sorry for themselves or anything like that. It's just a natural reaction to be, you know, down in the dumps and that. And so you know, there's that phrase that I think it comes from Buddha, where it's if you holding on to anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. And it's kind of that concept that I try to eliminate when people are talking. Like, let's not be that awfulizer in the room, and let's try to be positive and be proud of our actions. And so it's, you know, of course it's case by case, but I try to keep people focused on the fact that we always have choices and we can always be strong, and there are always people watching us, and we can always set an example for how strong we can be. And you know, if somebody sees us being calm, if somebody sees us being strong in difficult circumstances, hopefully that has a ripple effect onto them in the future too.
Most definitely. And I just want to go ahead and say again, Aubrey, your perspective on things is just phenomenal. And that, of course, again, ladies and gentlemen, is why this episode is called Chilled Grit, because Aubrey is just a very chill person, as we would say in street slang. Very, very calm demeanor and an approach that has a lot of value to it, Aubrey. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go ahead and see. Here is a person that has faced cancer in his body, not once, but twice. Has faced cancer in his body. And again, we're very, very, very happy that all is well with you now, and wish you nothing but a clean bill of health for the rest of your life going forward for many, many, many years. And I think that folks that watch this episode will go ahead and pull from that, especially the part that you talked to about the absence of negativity. I really, really, really enjoyed that. With about 3 minutes left in the episode, I want to go ahead and ask you a quick question. And those of you that have followed me on these episodes of the Many Voices of Grit, you know that this question, the last one, is my absolute favorite one. And it is the question that I call Letters from the Future. If you were able to go back in time and give yourself a letter, your younger self, what advice, wisdom, and guidance would you put in that letter that you would give to your younger self, knowing what was planned and what was going to happen in the future? What would you say to your younger self?
Oh man, that's such a cool question. I wish that not only could I have the question, but I could actually have a time machine and be able to do this, you know? So I appreciate this. No doubt, I would try to tell myself, you got to roll with life a little bit more as it happens. You know, I spend a lot of time at the ocean, you know, especially Maui. I love anything to do with the ocean. Just get inspired by it. And I was going to send something back to myself. One, I would say, get to the ocean faster, because I'm from northern Canada and the prairies. Like, we need to get to the ocean more. Number two is definitely like, take a look at those waves. You know, they just keep rolling in over and over and over again. Some of them have a lot of force behind them, and they might knock you down, just like life. Some of them you can ride in and have a little bit of fun with, again, just like life. Some you're better off taking a seat and just watching from a distance. But you always have a choice whether to fight, you know, for your strength, or to fight for something, or just to kind of, you know, ride with it. So I'd tell myself to be a little bit more, you know, relaxed, and take a look at the ocean for a little bit of inspiration in that too. The other thing is, just like, you know, sometimes you don't have a lot, you can't control what the waves are that are coming at you, but you do have some control on how you approach it. You absolutely have control all the time with your wake. You do leave a wake. You leave an emotional wake. You leave a wake of leadership. You leave a wake of people that you've helped or built up. You want that to be positive. So you may not be able to control the waves, but you can control the wake, you know, waves and wakes. And so with that, I think that's an empowering message I could send back to myself. And of course, one of my favorites has always been three fingers pointing back. I can point out at the world and say, you know, this is unfair, or this, you know, this could be better. Or I could say to people, you should do better. But the reality is, there's always three fingers pointing back, or three fingers pointing back. You know, we have a lot of choices that are empowering. And so I just wish I could give myself those lessons that came with age a little bit earlier, and say, you know, you've got control of things, three fingers pointing back, waves and wakes.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Waves and wakes, and inspiration from the ocean, inspiration from the water. I want to go ahead and personally thank you, Aubrey, for being on the show. It has been my absolute honor, privilege, and absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Just a phenomenal episode. And ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, make sure that you share this episode and pay it forward. As much as you have enjoyed it, many others will enjoy it as well. So there you have it, Chilled Grit, with our guest today, Aubrey Patterson. So ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, remember, as always, feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. That's impact the right way. See you next time.